things that we talked about earlier is the fact that you have an idea and you put it out there. And when I started my research in breast cancer, I don't think we had the same awareness of breast cancer and the same support of breast cancer that we have today. And so we've put it out there that, you know, the scientists are dreaming of a day of eradicating breast cancer. And some of you who have participated in the enterprise by giving your time, by donating to research, you've really said to us that you value it and that you appreciate it. And it's not just in this country, but all over the world. So Hard Rock Cafe is international, right? Anyone who walks into a Hard Rock Cafe should know about breast cancer. And by participating and buying a pin, they are supporting research that we are dreaming one day will eradicate breast cancer as a cause of death for women. So that's the coming back. We give it out there. We're happy that you're supporting us, and we want you to do more of it.
This is Fumi's sales pitch. Let me say one other thing about communication. Anybody who's been on a stage knows that you can sort of feel an energy that comes up, even with your eyes closed, even when you can't see anything because there's bright lights in your eyes, you can just sort of feel it. The energy that I'm getting from you out there is just astonishing. Yeah, you feel it all. Yeah.
Good people.
And so, you know, I want to give you a chance to ask questions too. You know, we're all here, and we can talk about anything we want to do. You know, anything we can sort of do. What are some of your thoughts in this regard, and how do you sort of see what we're talking about and where we're going? Somebody's got to be first, please.
I would just like to respond to something you just said. You said you had a dream that there would be a cure, but I'd like you to say you're confident there will be a cure.
Well, yeah, I think, you know, confidence is what drives us all. I mean, we wouldn't go to work every day and do what we do. Yeah. It's a very good point.
Well, so, you know, at the early part of the century, tuberculosis killed most people. And once we figured out that tuberculosis was caused by a bacteria, I think most people know that we can cure and we can eradicate tuberculosis. So where we are with breast cancer is that we're confident that what happened to polio, what happened to tuberculosis can happen to breast cancer. We're now just coming together to deal with that problem.
Susan?
And just to take it a little further, we know that there are immune therapies that can prevent cancer. And two of the examples to give are the hepatitis B vaccine can prevent hepatocellular carcinoma, and the HPV vaccine can prevent cervical cancer. So these are things that have happened, the HPV vaccine recently. We know that it works. And I always vision research, this may be a funny analogy, is like a very long baseball game, and you just have to keep getting base hits to keep getting runs. And sometimes you get a home run, but a lot of times you get a base hit, and that's okay, because if you get enough base hits and you work on the work of others, and it's a cumulative effort. And I think that's another thing that's been so wonderful about the BCRF, is that it really reinforces the collaborative nature that needs to happen. You need to say, this person's done this, I can use that to make the next step. So that's why I'm confident.
Yeah, I should just want to mention real quickly that we have a meeting every year in October where we bring everybody together, and we have think tanks of all the various scientists, and all working on incredibly different topics. I mean, we don't stick on any one thing. We try to cover all the possibilities, and we also have a dedicated website. And it takes a while for that to catch energy where people can communicate. So we're just not trying to have people work in their own individual areas, but actually connect. It's one of the active things we do. We have a question out there, yes?
Question? Next question. We do have a microphone. Sorry, we missed that for your question.
Okay, great. Okay, good.
Another question?
Okay.
So while we're getting the question, so Alan Ashworth is a researcher in London who started working on developing a drug for women at high risk for breast cancer.
BCRF supported researcher in London.
Right. So this is a BCRF supported researcher in London. And 10 years ago, when he began that research, it was a dream. Today, it's a reality that we have a drug, and that drug is going to not only allow more women to be cured of their breast cancer, but could be a drug that will prevent that particular type of breast cancer. So yes, we've had several base hits, and we're looking for the home run.
We're going to get there. Please.
Hi there, Justin Fishkin from the Holster Project. I had a two-part quick question. First being that given we're in Washington, there's a lot of young people in the crowd who are involved in the debate of the day, which is healthcare, both from the Congress and different NGOs and philanthropies. And I think collectively we'd like to ask, what can we do from your perspective, and how can we take the next step together if we were all to be fighting for one piece of the next step? What would you ask that we fight for? Secondly, to Melissa, we had a conversation yesterday about the music you listened to growing up versus the music my generation listened to growing up. And out of necessity, I remember you mentioned Bob Marley and Bob Dylan, and a lot of people were speaking, or were activists based on the times. And a lot of the people we grew up with, you were one of the few that was an activist and speaking about the state of the world. And there aren't as many today, and I think now we're starting to realize as a generation that young people, the world is in a place where artists need to speak. How would you encourage other artists to be strong like you, to speak about what they feel is happening on a daily basis?
All right, let's do that one first.
Yeah, well, actually both of those questions sort of meld together for me because they have one thing in common, and that is our capitalistic society. We live in a culture that is based on, everything runs on money, and it's all profit driven, and that's how our country has been set up. And in the music business, when these guys were first coming out, it wasn't about money, it was about making music. It was about what the art form was ages old, from the minstrels that would go from town to town and were regarded as shamans almost. They spoke what was happening from town to town. These were people, they would get their news from these people. So that sort of art form was healthy and alive at the beginning of rock and roll. That these people, when Bob Dylan was playing the coffee houses, he wasn't thinking about his record deal. He wasn't thinking about, am I going to sell out? Am I going to sell as many tickets this time as I did last time? Now, our country, what it does with anything that we turn our attention to, it turns it into a profit. Someone's going to make a buck from it because that's the way our country's set up. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying that's just how it is. Now my generation, that we grew up in the 60s and 70s, saw that big change happen right around the 80s. And nowadays, brand new artists coming into it, it's not that much of a social, it's more, can I get on American Idol? Can I make that record deal? Can I make that money? And the answer to that is to support the artists that are still out there on the fringe, the ones that are bringing the communication out and forward, the ones that are being a mirror to our society. And not only in music, but in any form. What can you do? You can go to your representative, your congressman, your senator, and say, say, this is important to me. This, whatever it is, this, our quality of life is important. I want to be more important than the corporate profit margin. My individual life is more important than this. And again, all of any corporation is based on you and what you're going to buy, what you are going to be attracted to buy. And if they see that we can change that, if they see the change, the money will go that way. If you start buying the album of the artist who is speaking some sort of truth that rings into you, the attention goes there, and you change that paradigm. So I feel the same way about both of those questions.
This is all about empowerment.